Okay, so I'm starting to shred the sinew for my bow. Sinew, this is a tendon. This is the Achilles tendon. It's like this tendon right here on us. That's that same tendon, but on a deer. All right, so I've got it prepared for backing. Got the long, medium, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. Those middle two are about the same, but I've got 2 left, but I'm gonna stop and call it a night. I mean, that's about 3 or 4 hours worth of work right there. It doesn't look like much, but that's some tough stuff. That's encouraging though, because it's going on the back of the bow. So, okay, well, I just got the first layer of sinew on there. We'll see how it turns out. I'm gonna use the rest of the sinew. You just put it on there. So I've got that, and then that. I've got another bundle somewhere. I don't know where it went, but I'm fixing to start letting some rehydrate. Figured I'd just take a break. I've been doing this for about an hour. It's pretty rough, but you can see that's the this right here, the whiter. That's a new strip that I'm fixing to start on for the second layer. But I've gone down. I think I got the edges pretty good. I think I've got it covered about as good as it's gonna be, as good as I can get it anyways. And I'm not going all the way to the tips because it's a recurve and those won't be working anyways, but just wanted to kind of show y'all what it looked like. All right, so I finished up. I've got it wrapped up in a few spots just to kind of hold it in place. I'm gonna be checking it every now and then, every few hours or so, but that's about 3 layers of sinew. So that's a bunch right there. I'll have to take it down on the side and clean it up and everything, but it's real heavy and dense right now, but once it dries, it should shrink up and hopefully add some weight and some reflex. So we'll see what happens. All right, so I've got the sinew bow just about done. The sinew's dried out. I cut a shelf in it, strung it up. I've gotten it tillered out. It shoots pretty good. I'm not sure the draw weight on it yet, but it's somewhere around 50 pounds, I think. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, I don't know. But now I'm just kind of finishing up. So I'm gonna put timber rattlers on here, timber rattlesnakes. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna waterproof this sinew. I've got some Titebond 3 glue on it right now, which will that waterproofs it too, but I'm gonna add the snake skins because snake skins are waterproof. That's gonna add some extra protection. So they're gonna go all the way down to the tips, all the way through the handle, all the way down to this tip too, because I wanna completely waterproof it. I might even go on the sides with it too, just to seal up the sides too, just to be safe. Then I've got a deer antler that Kale found, this deer antler, and I cut a piece of it off and filed it down. Here's the other one. But I'm gonna put that on the tip right here. So I've filed down this tip right here. Got it completely flat, and this is perfectly flat. And this is pretty close to the shape of the tip, but I gotta finish it up later. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna glue it down, let it set overnight, and then I'll come back in the morning and then I'll shape it up and get it flush to the back of this tip and make it look good. And then I'm gonna add a beaver tail handle. So I've got the beaver tail in the freezer, but I need to clean it and tan it, and then I'll wrap that around the grip there and just make a comfortable grip, durable grip. So all right, I've got it clamped on there, so you can see that's the bottom one. It's a dark brown. I think it'll look good. I just got it pretty flush because I'll come back and file down like that up there, but I've got it clamped down really tight to hold it in place. And I used Tight Bond 3 because it's waterproof. Those tip overlays I did with Tight Bond 3 as well, so they held up really, really good. And here's the top one. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I'll come back. Okay, so I've got them cleaned. I messed up. You got to be careful when you're unfolding the, like unrolling their bodies, because when they're frozen, they'll tear real easy. So this one tore. I'll just try to glue that one together on the bow like that. I don't think it'll be a big deal. What you want to do next, you could just go ahead and put it on the bow, but I don't have time for that. So what you would do is nail it and spread it out so it can dry like this, and then you put it on the bow after that. So you just nail it and stretch it apart so it can dry out, and it'll dry out in a day or so. Doesn't take too long, and then you'll have to rehydrate it to put it on the bow. Okay, so I've got it wrapped up. You can see it kind of coming out of the tips there. The reason you have to wrap it up like this, I guess you wouldn't have to always. Like this limb, the snake skin laid down pretty good and it wasn't sticking up anywhere. This limb, the snake skin, because of how the snake was positioned, was all crooked and everything. So I had to force it down and hold it down tight with this so the glue will, you know, form to it. But it'll dry. This is just pieces of t-shirt. It can dry through this t-shirt. So I'm done with that. I'm fixing to head to work. And by the time I get back this evening, it'll be dry. Not dry enough to put a finish coat on it, but dry enough to where I can clean it up, make it look good to the back of the bow. So I'll show y'all when I get back. All right, so I've kind of gotten the tip overlays done. This is what it's gonna look like, at least. I still need this to dry out. It still feels kind of squishy in some spots. There's the other tip overlay down there, the deer antlers. What I'm gonna do now though is I'm gonna take a hand file and kind of flatten this out down through there, so that way I can write the name on it or burn it in there and put a logo on it somewhere. I'm just doing some finish work right now while it's drying. All right, I just got the second layer of finish on there with this snake skin. Like, you can see how big these scales are. The scales come off real easy, so a lot of these scales came off on the top limb because the snake was a lot bigger, but it lost a lot of color. Still has a really cool pattern. It's just not as dark, which is fine. But see, and then these scales are a lot smaller. I don't know if it differs from female to male or how that works, but a lot of these stayed on there. Some of them came off, but a lot of them stayed on there, and it held the color. You can see how shiny it gets with that true oil. It's a gunstock finish, but I'll probably put like 8 coats of it on here. So that's a second coat. You can kind of see the bottom. Well, it's real tacky, but it really brings out all of the lines and the growth rings on it and everything. Makes it look really pretty. Okay, so the beaver tails have fully dried out. I really don't know how long it took. I said it'd take about a day, but it took longer than that. I know that. I ended up bringing them inside and putting a fan on them, and that helped a lot. But I would say you're good after a couple days. I mean, you want it to, you know, stiff. That's how you want it to dry out. So that's what it should look like. I just put the first layer and the only layer of contact cement on there. I'm gonna save this one for my dad's bow, I think, and I'm putting that one on my bow. But yeah, so you just kind of let that dry out. All right, once your beaver tail is dried out and everything, and you're ready to put it on your bow, you need to rehydrate it to make it pliable. We'll leave it in here for 20 or 30 minutes or so, and then come back and check it. And once that's done, I'll put it on the back or put it on the handle for the bow. This is one of Big Jim Bow Company's bows. It's the Thunder Child. I put the beaver tail grips on the same way he does. With regards of string, you can use really whatever you want that's about that size. I like to use this artificial sinew. It holds up really good. You can't really pull it apart. I mean, you can't break it. It's not as good as real sinew. Like, you can't back a bow with it or anything, but tying stuff for like purposes like this, it does a good job. This is what I used for my other beaver tail grip that I did, and it looks cool. I like the color, and I mean, it does the job. All right, so I put the thin layer of contact cement on there, on the handle where I want to put it. I forgot. I was talking to my wife and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. And you don't want to put it right here on this side yet, because that's where you go stitch it. So like if you put it there and you wrap it up, it's gonna stick, and you're gonna have to pull it back off anyway. So there's no point in putting it there. Plus that's gonna be held down by the stitching, so don't worry about that. The beaver tail is just about rehydrated, and we're gonna try to form it to the handle. I've got another coat of the contact cement on there, and that's what's gonna stick to this. So this is dried up. You won't need this for a while, but I went ahead and cut it. But I got a pretty long piece of string to sew with, because you want to have too much rather than too little. You want to have more of these wraps than you think you need, just in case. And then you need either a really sharp knife or a razor. I would prefer a razor, but I don't have one. So that's the sharpest knife I have right now. So once this gets properly tacky and sits there for a little bit, I'll go ahead and put it on here, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, I got it on there, wrapped up. That was a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. This jugger, that handle was shaped real weird. I think I got it good enough. I think it'll turn out pretty good, turn out looking good. I had to cut some of it off to get it to fit, but I think it'll work. We'll come back in the morning, check that out, take the wrap off. The glue should have set up by then, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I just took the wrap off. This is what it looks like right now. So I'm gonna take a Sharpie and draw on that white just to blend it in. And then all you do now is just sew it up. So I wanted to show you this. If you did want to do this yourself, kind of colored on that part with some Sharpie. But if you do want to do this yourself, there's plenty of videos on how to do this stitching method. But what you'll do is you'll come up and over. So you'll poke the hole and pull it through the skin like that. So you won't come from under it, if that makes sense. Because if you come from under it, then that's what it'll look like. And I forgot to go over it right there, but it's okay. So this is what it looks like when you go over it, and it just makes these arrows pointing up. This is not the best stitching job I've done, but it gets the job done. And the last thing I'll do, well, trim that up, get all that off, but the last thing I'll do to this handle is to put True Oil over it. I tried putting a leather conditioner on there, and it would work for a while, and then it'd wear off just like any other leather. And that got annoying because this would just dry out and kind of start to crack and everything. But then I started putting True Oil on it, and it held up really well. There's a slight glisten to it, but that's what I did with my other bow. And the leather held up really well. That's what I'm going to do with this one when I get done, but just put like 1 or 2 thin coats on there and be done. But yeah, I'm just about done sewing it up. I just wanted to give you that little tip. All right, so it's fully done. Here's the finished product.
See how pretty that golden wood is. I love that. Now as time goes on, it'll get a lot darker, kind of turn to this color here, but I love that wood. There's the Gremlin logo. I named this one Awi, which is Cherokee Indian for deer. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I got. I've got a string ordered. I've shot it some with a different string, but I don't want to shoot too much with that string because it might mess it up. But I've got my string ordered, and I'll start getting arrows tuned up to it so I can get ready for deer season. Thank y'all for watching. Like and subscribe.